All right, so here's the homework video for 7.7. Remember, everything you've ever learned about what a derivative does still applies. It basically is what's going to happen all school year long, is that we're going to learn new derivative rules and apply the old ideas that we've always had, that the derivative gets us the slope of the tangent, the instantaneous velocity, the instantaneous rate of change. The second derivative gets us acceleration, that we can make a sign pattern to figure out where our graph increases and decreases and has maximums and minimums. The only thing that's changing is the rule we use to find our derivative, in this case the quotient rule, and then what we need to put on our sign pattern, in this case our POEs and our vertical asymptotes. All right, so I start with my derivative. I've got low d high minus high d low all over low. I simplify, again, always be careful about distributing the negative, and I end up with my derivative. Factor my derivative so that I can find where my zeros of the derivative are, in other words, my critical values of the original function. I can see that I'm going to have vertical asymptotes at 3 and -3, and note, because this is squared, my sign is not going to change as I cross over those vertical asymptotes. I make my sign pattern. I can see that I've got a minimum at x equals 1 because the sign changes from negative to positive at 1. And I've got a maximum at 9 because my sign changes from positive to negative. Now, if I wanted to know what the min or maximum was, I would have to substitute into the original to figure that out. Number 3, same thing. I start with my derivative. I've got my low d high. I've got my high d low. I've got low. I simplify to get my derivative. Now, my numerator, I'm going to have to put into my calculator to come up with my zeros of the derivative, or in other words, my critical values. Sorry, for some reason I didn't list that. Once I come up with my two values from the calculator, I'm able to set up my sign pattern. Again, in our quotient rule, our vertical asymptotes for the derivative, the sign will not change as we cross those vertical asymptotes because the denominator is squared. I can see that I've got a minimum at negative 0.721 because my graph my sign pattern of the derivative changes negative to positive. I've got a maximum at 1.387 because my derivative changes from positive to negative. Finally, number 5, again, I've got low d high, high d low, all over low. Simplify, and I'm going to be able to factor my numerator. So 4x squared minus 16 equal to 0. Not quite sure why I didn't finish this one. So that I can see that I've got critical values at plus or minus 2. I do not have any vertical asymptotes because my denominator is x squared plus 4. It's a sum of squares, and the sum of squares is not factorable. And so I can see I've got a maximum at -2, a minimum at 2. And again, if I wanted to know what those values were, I would have to substitute into my original function. What I really advise you is, as you look forward to the test next week, is keep in mind all those things we've done in the past using the derivative. We're going to see questions about tangent lines. We're going to see questions about velocity, moving right, moving left. Is the function increasing? Is the function decreasing? We're not simply going to look for extreme values. All right, hope this helped. If not, ask questions in class.